This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I are joined by Brice Palm, a good friend of Josh's who will be coming on to talk about the UFC, the ins and outs of all the big cards coming up. What are some big matchups? What are some of the fighters that we know about, some that we don't know about? And then we also finish up with talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and who's going to come out of the NFC East. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and Josh is on the bottom because he was late again today.
Late again. What's new?
But we are back. It's not just two of us. It's not going to get boring like sometimes it does. I don't know if it does or not. But we're back with a guest. So Josh, why don't you introduce who's here with us and what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, today we got my friend Brice Palm on. We go way back to, I want to say, as far as middle school. So we've known each other for a while, even though he's moved to South Carolina now is where he's at. Still have been in touch, mostly because of sports and fantasy football. And more recently, as you guys can tell by the outfit Brice is wearing, UFC, we've been talking a lot about that. And we got some cool fights coming up that I wanted to bring him on to talk about. But that's kind of like my introduction to Brice. Is there anything you'd like to add there, Brice? I see you got the belt in the background, the Hollerhead whiskey. So, I mean, this guy's all business on UFC.
Yeah, I had to, I'm an ambassador for the Hollerhead, so I had to bring that up.
All right.
Belt, you know. And then when we changed the discussion to NFL, I was going to pop in.
There we go.
Yeah, I met Josh, and shoot, I was probably in early high school or late middle school, and you were just really small then, half the size you are now. And I know you were a sports guy, and you were always knew everything about sports, could talk to you about any of it. And I think we just kind of hit it off, and I invited you to the fantasy league, and we've been doing that together for what, 12, 13, 14
It's been a while,
now?
Man. Yeah, we've been in that league over a decade. And
yeah,
you guys, for however long you started it before me, yeah.
Yeah, I've always admired your ability to cover sports, and over the past couple of years, I've seen you like jump up and do things with other athletes. Like you had the thing with Joe Burrow, and you go to Indy and all that. And it's like, dang, he's really cool. And then I know you started doing this podcast thing. I was like, I'd love to try that out. So here we are.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, hey man, we're glad to have you on.
Wow,
too.
Josh has another friend. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I had to say something in this episode. I'm not going to say anything until like the second half of this episode, so I got to get something in.
Yeah, we are a little out of Ben's comfort zone today. Kind of, if you guys remember way back when we talked about the World Cup, and I was the one that had no idea any of the discussion. Ben's kind of in my shoes now.
Got the UFC page on.
Yeah, but yeah, we've talked UFC. I think one time on here just after Ngannou's title fight, but we wanted to bring Brice on to talk about some of these big time fights coming up, and pretty soon in a week actually, we're gonna have Kamaru Usman take on Leon Edwards in UFC 278. So if you guys didn't know, Usman right now is ranked number 1 pound for pound fighter in the country. He's got a 20-1 MMA record, I believe. He's 15-0 in the UFC. And if he wins this fight this weekend, he ties Anderson Silva's record for the longest winning streak in UFC history. I don't know if you got any kind of initial thoughts on both of these fighters, Brice, but they both seem to be very tough in that welterweight division. I mean, Edwards is, I want to say 18-3, 19-3. Like he's got a really good record himself.
Yeah. Edwards hasn't fought a whole lot in recent years. There's been a lot of cancellations and injuries and things like that, but I'm really excited. He actually fought Usman earlier in his career, and it was an L for Edwards. But they're both completely different fighters now at this point in their career. I would say Edwards is entering his prime or is in his prime, and Usman's still in his prime, but he's getting to that later stage where I think it might start dwindling down. So, but the time where these two athletes coming together is like a perfect timing right now. I'm gonna say don't be surprised if Edwards could pull out a win in this fight. Just because Usman's coming off of an injury with a broken hand, and I don't think he's fought a true striker like Edwards. A lot of these England fighters are like I think boxing's a lot more crazy over there than it is over here as far as like fighting technique. And Edwards is going to bring that to the table. I don't think Usman's fought a true striker. Yes, Masvidal, but the first time he fought Masvidal, it was like a short notice kind of thing where it was 5-7 days he had to prepare. So I don't really count that one. The second time they fought, it was kind of fluke. He knocked out, I mean, I was there in person. It was crazy. He knocked out Masvidal so quickly that he didn't get to see much. So I think Edwards strike. We're going to see a true fight here, a true striker versus a grappler. So that's just kind of a quick rundown. But
yeah, I mean, Usman's winning streak is kind of the thing that I'm most interested about this fight. And it's not like he hasn't had any tough guys to fight. Like, he has gone against Masvidal a couple of times. He's gone against Colby Covington a couple of times. I believe he's knocked down Gilbert Burns, Tyron Woodley, Sean Strickland. So it's not like he's just in a weak division by any means. Can you kind of give us a summary of what the welterweight division looks like right now and just how incredible Usman's 15 fight winning streak is?
I mean, it's incredible. He's beaten Colby Covington twice now, who is a very similar styled fighter than him, and those were his true tests. And I mean, he won both of them. I wouldn't say soundly; they were competitive. But he won. Every single fight that he's been in has been an extremely difficult fight. None of them have been like, "Oh, this is easy. Usman's going to win." Not in my opinion, at least. Other than maybe the first Masvidal one, but dude was fighting on short notice. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, how good you are. If you can go on a 15 fight win streak, like you literally beat anybody, any human on earth. You beat 15 different people. He's fought some people twice, but still winning 15 fights in a row. I mean, that's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, 15 in a row. Crazy. I mean, do you recall who finally was able to take down Anderson Silva and how his streak ended?
Who was it?
I mean, I'm actually a huge Chris Weidman fan. He's my favorite UFC fighter, and he was the one that I don't know if he was the first one to beat Silva. To be honest with you, I think he was, but he beat Silva and took the belt, and that's when I actually became a UFC fan watching that fight. But that's how Anderson Silva got taken down, and then eventually they did rematch, and unfortunately there was a freak accident where Silva broke his leg across Weidman's leg, and then Silva's career kind of went down from there. I don't see this Usman Edwards fight similar to the Weidman Silva fight. I think it's different, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the longevity, I mean, either way, that's incredible. But the UFC obviously thinks very highly of Usman, even at 35 years old, #1 pound for pound fighter. And we got a lot of good, talented fighters holding that belt right now. So I imagine if Usman's going to go down, and you brought up the fact that Edwards is a striker, this kind of sounds like if he's going to lose, it's going to be by a knockout, which is kind of insane to think about with how much he's dominated.
I think it's going to be a decision fight.
Okay.
Like if you look at their like, let's just say if you go to UFC.com, you can see all their statistics, like the significant strikes, their grappling. So Usman's never been taken down in the UFC. He's got 100% takedown defense, which that's arguable because the last time he fought Colby, I thought Colby got a takedown, but they didn't count it. But yeah, so it's definitely going to be a stand-up type fight.
Okay.
But I mean, even Leon Edwards, see, the thing is, his takedown defense is fantastic too. He's got like 70% takedown defense. But I think it's going to be a fight that's mostly a stand-up fight.
Gotcha. But just a couple, maybe if Edwards does win, then it's just going to be because he got more hits on Usman than.
Yeah, it's going to be more strikes. He's a quicker striker. He's going to land more.
Now, my question is, this is coming from a guy that barely watches any UFC. What do you think makes Usman like so dominant in this run? Like, is there one thing that you look at him and go, this is what he does fight after fight that puts him above his opponent, that puts him above the rest, that is something that you can just look at and be like, bam, that's what he does every time?
Yeah, that's the awesome thing about him. I don't know. He's so balanced and so refined, and literally everything he does, the stand-up, the grappling, the jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, he does it all fantastic. The clinch, he's just scary looking. And it took a while, I'll be honest, for him to earn my respect. I actually couldn't stand Usman. I was like, oh, an Usman fight's on. Mm-hmm. And then I got tickets to UFC 261 when UFC first came back after COVID. And when I saw him in person, and when I saw him knock out Masvidal like that, he instantly finally earned my respect. I was like, he's just so good. He's so scary. I don't know what it is. And once you earn that scary reputation, that's what makes you you. It's just,
yeah.
I don't know. I can't pinpoint one thing about his game. he's known as an insane grappler and wrestler, but he's rarely ever actually utilized that in his game, especially in his last few championship victories. So we know that's there, and that's how scary he is, because that threat's always there. But he hasn't even had to utilize it because his striking has gotten so good.
The fact he's never been taken down too, that's something I didn't know.
He has a 100% takedown defense.
Yeah. But you also kind of said earlier that Usman's in his prime right now, even at 35. So, like, how much longer do you think he can fight? I think Derek Lewis is 37, the oldest active fighter right now. How much longer could we see Usman in the UFC, do you think, barring injury or anything like that?
I mean, yeah, we already saw the hand injury thing recently that he had surgery on. I don't. No matter how old you are, your body just starts to break down after a while, no matter what.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah, unless you're Tom Brady or Glover Teixeira, who is was the previous light heavyweight champion. You and I were talking a little bit before we started this with Prochaka, that guy. So that fight was crazy, and they're actually gonna. Well, the rumor has it, I don't know if it's officially signed yet, but they're gonna rematch for the title, I believe, in December. But he's 42. He just turned 43, maybe. Glover Teixeira, and he's still going strong. So maybe Usman can do it too. That's extremely rare. I don't know. I think this fight is going to answer that question. I think that's going to answer a lot of the questions.
Yeah. If Usman does win this fight, who do you anticipate might be the next title fight? Because I'm seeing and I'm going to butcher his name, but is it Khamzat Chimaev, who's also undefeated?
Khamzat,
ranked third in the division right now.
Probably. So, I mean, he's fighting Nate Diaz coming up, so maybe not, because obviously there's the recovery time. There's always medical suspensions. So, I mean, at minimum, it's going to take another 3 months. So someone would probably fill that spot.
Okay.
Before he would get the title shot. I really don't know. There's just a couple other fights that need to happen first for anyone to really come out and get that shot. I mean, Usman, let's just say Usman won. He's beaten everybody in the welterweight division.
That's what made me think that maybe he could take on Chimaev, because he's already taken down, we said, Masvidal a couple times, Covington a couple times. Maybe it could be Sean Strickland, because I think they've only gone against each other one time. So it's just, I wonder how many times you can fight a guy, because we have seen some three-peats before, but I'd also kind of like to see this new up-and-coming guy come up and maybe get a shot.
It's possible. I don't think it would be Strickland, because Strickland's pretty set in fighting in middleweight right now with Izzy's division. And Usman actually said he's willing to move up, but he won't move up to middleweight, which is his next division after welterweight, because he's like best friends with Izzy. They're both Nigerian and all that. And
so if anything, he's going to cut down a class?
No, he would actually, he's talking about moving up to light heavyweight.
Like just skipping a whole entire class. Okay.
Which would be crazy, because he's going to, I mean, the height advantage, I think, is already going to be, he's already, I think, considered a little short for his division. So, but hey, we see Alexander Volkanovski just destroying people that are way taller than him in the featherweight division.
Yeah.
So.
For sure, man. So let's just kind of wrap up this main fight. Give us a quick, maybe 2 sentences on why Usman can win this fight, and then why Edwards can win this fight.
So Usman can win the fight just because he's beaten Edwards before. I know they're both different fighters now, but there's always that mental thing, like, you beat me before. I mean, it could go either way. It could be like, but I don't. It's such a hard fight to call. I think most people are going to say Usman hands down, but I think when you really break down everything, there's a good chance it could go either way. It really could. It's going to answer a lot of questions. But Usman will win by, I think, grappling. I think we're finally going to see him actually implement his all-star grappling into this game, keep Edwards down, win it in a decision. Edwards will win if he doesn't get taken down, and I think he's going to have way more output as far as striking goes. He's going to land more, do more damage. I don't know, but I think he's definitely going to have way more output, as I said, and he's going to take it to a decision too. I think it's going to be a decision either way.
It's like a coin. It's a coin toss.
It really is. It really is a coin toss.
Because, I got Usman. I don't know why.
I do too, but
I just do.
Yeah. So that's kind of the main fight. I know you had some notes, Brice, on some of these other fights that are on the main card. Maybe there's some higher profile ones here that I just don't know about just because I'm not as into it as you, but I definitely haven't heard of any of them. I'll be honest. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe some of the fights on the main card, things to watch there, maybe something on the prelim?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. This card is lackluster as far as having fighters that most fans are going to know. That might sound like a casual thing to say, but it doesn't mean that the fights aren't going to be exciting.
Right.
I've seen some. I watch every fight night. There's some of them where I don't know hardly any of the guys, but they end up being the most exciting cards. But since this is a pay-per-view and this is a thing where like people pay 70, $80 for, you want to see those big names on it. And unfortunately, this card doesn't have that. But there are a couple fights that I could point out. The co-main with Paula Costa and Luke Rockhold. I personally don't like either of these guys. I call this the pretty boy championship. If there was a pretty boy belt, it's like a soap opera fight. If you look up all the drama between these guys' careers and everything, as far as weight cuts and girlfriends, and when Izzy beat Paula Costa, and Paula Costa's excuse was that he was drunk during the night before or during the fight or something like that. There's a whole lot of fun little stories that you could put together for this fight. But as far as the fight itself goes, I think Costa is going to win. Rockhold he hasn't fought in a long time, and when he did, he got knocked out cold by Blachowicz in the light heavyweight division. And then the third one is Jose Aldo, and I actually can't pronounce his last name. I think it's Divashili, but he's one of those guys that, wears the kind of Habib hat thing every time he wins a fight. And, those guys are always really scary. They always are like the guys that keep you pinned to the ground and everything. And a fun little stat about Divashili, he had 27 takedowns in one calendar year in 2020. That's most in UFC history in 1 year. So You already know that's going to be wild.
That's going to be on the ground a lot then.
But Jose Aldo is one of the best in the UFC at defensive takedowns. He has
strength then.
In his entire UFC career, he has a 90% defensive takedown rate. So it's just kind of crazy to think about, like the guy who has the most takedowns versus the guy who has one of the other Usman's, like one of the best defensive takedowns.
I just love how, I love the guys you say that are scary are mainly all from Eastern Europe, which is where I'm at, which I just think is just so funny to me. Like, it's just like, these are the scary dudes, just these, and they do, like, I just looked him up and I'm like, he's kind of terrifying to look at. He's just kind of scary.
It's almost hard to pick against those guys just based on their appearance, which is crazy.
Goodness.
Oh. But I mean, the other fights on the main card, you'll never know. They could be good, but those are the guys that I consider like A-listers who are definitely worth watching on the main card. As far as the prelims and early prelims, I would look up for so two guys that are fighting on the prelim are Woodson and Saldana. They're both winners on Dana White's Contender Series, and Dana only hires guys that he knows are going to put on like shows for him. So basically the way the Contender Series works, he gets a bunch of fighters around the world to come together and they all fight each other, and then whoever he thinks put on a great show, he signs. Both of these guys are guys that he signed in the Contender Series, and they're going to fight each other on a pay-per-view. So I got to trust Dan on that one and say that one is a potential banger. I'll always have UFC parties and have a bunch of friends over. We'll have the prelims and early prelims on in the background, and not everybody always pays attention to them, but there's always fights where I'm like, hey guys, let's sit down real quick, put the chips down, let's watch this fight. This one could be good. And this is one I think you should circle, the Woodson and Saldana. And then for early prelims, Albazi and Figgy, who is actually the older brother of Desean Figueiredo, who is the current.
I was just going to ask you that if he was the flyweight champ, right?
It should be Brandon Moreno's belt, let's be honest, but
right.
So it's always cool to see like brothers of all stars also fighting in the UFC. There's a couple others in there like that. That could be an interesting one. They're both extremely good grapplers. I give the edge to Figgy because Albazi hasn't fought since January of last year. I think just COVID issues and stuff. But as far as UFC 278 goes, like I said, unfortunately a little lackluster, but circle those, watch them.
Yeah. But we do have some kind of exciting main cards coming up that I wanted to talk about with you too, Bryce. You mentioned 280 stacks, so we'll kind of go in order here. We got 279 with Shimaev and Nate Diaz. I don't really know that they have that totally set out yet, but I mean, Nate Diaz is a guy that everybody will remember knocking out Conor McGregor years ago, but he's kind of older now. He's not fighting as much, and he's just kind of on the decline in his career. So is there anything relevant to watch for in this fight, or is Shimaev just going to mop the floor with him?
Well, real quick before I mention that, I did want to throw in the fight night after this.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, if we are truly going in chronological order here, yes, the fight night with the Cyril Gane, Tai Tuivasa main event. So
for European fans or fans in Paris or in France, this is like a pay-per-view caliber fight. Cyril Gane's French guy, recently fought for the title, but Ngannou surprisingly handled him pretty easily. Tuivasa is an upcoming heavyweight star. You just don't want to miss that fight. Robert Whittaker, who's fought in Izzy a couple times, been fantastic fights both times. He's fighting Italian Stallion, Martin Vittori, and all these fighters are like just great European fighters. Buckley's an American fighter. He's on there. He had knockout of the year, last year, or year before. Just a lot of good fighters on that. But yeah, as far as 279 with Hamzat and Diaz, again, that card hasn't really materialized yet, so there's not a whole lot to talk about for that card. But like, let's be honest, nobody probably cares because everybody's just going to be so fixed on Nate Diaz's last fight versus Hamzat. Yeah, and I'm with most of, I think, the logical fans here that just know that Diaz's career is over. I mean, I know everybody says this, but you touch the guy, he just bleeds. He's been beat up and injured so much. I just think it's going to be a bloodbath. And again, Hamzat's another guy that I've seen in person fight against Gilbert Burns, which was arguably fight of the year.
That was an insane fight. I remember watching that too.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say then other than thank you, Nate Diaz, for making UFC part of what it was. But fortunately, this is a grim funeral for him. I wish he would have had his last fight would have been like the Conor McGregor trilogy or fight Dustin Poirier like the rumors were for a year, and it just didn't happen. But
it is. I do think the Nate Diaz. See, that's one guy I do know because I remember that Conor McGregor. That's the one guy I do know. But I did want to touch before Josh asks the next question that Tai Tuivasa, his nickname is Bam Bam. I just thought that is just like, see, this is what gets me going in this is the guy's nickname is Bam Bam. How that happens. I have no idea, but I mean, imagine what that guy was like in school. Bam Bam. Hey, Bam Bam, come here, Bam Bam.
I mean, I'm not sure how he got the name. I would assume it's just because of the way he throws his punches. I mean, that's pretty much
a superhero.
But in heavyweight,
bam,
winging, man. But a fun fact about him, if you go back and I actually recommend you watching the highlights on any of these fighters that seem interesting to you because that's what will help you learn more about them and their fighting styles. But every time he wins, he drinks beer out of a shoe. Like fans.
I saw that, dude. It was the Poirier McGregor fight.
It's so
he was one of the ones leading up to it, and I was like, "What is he doing?" Because that was the first time I'd ever seen him fight, and just his appearance, I was like, "This guy is the most fat, out of shape I've ever seen. How do you get into UFC? How does he even win? This is gonna like."
He's got
he does. He has the tribal tattoo on his hip. It like goes up to like past his waist.
Yeah. It's kind of gross.
What's the other guy? The other guy who reminds me of is his last name was Nelson. He had a big beard. Or maybe it's not Nelson. He was like a fat white dude that looked like a dad. What was his name? Oh, I can't remember his name now. He was I remember playing on UFC on the video game. That's the only reason I remember him. But now I can't remember his name. I'm gonna look him up because this is just driving me insane.
Look
fat UFC white guy. Named Nelson. Or last name was hold on. Roy Nelson. That's his name. I don't know if you guys remember Roy Nelson, but the man, I wish I could just it literally looks like a grown, like he looks like a farmer out of like my hometown. This is what he looks like. He just looks like my uncle or something. I don't know. He just looks if you look him up, he is quite not intimidating.
Big Country.
Yeah.
Big
fascinating individual. Anyways, Josh, I got us off topic because that's what I do here.
Hey,
Josh,
you got to contribute to the conversation some way. Am I right?
I got to somehow.
Yeah, well, that was fun though. So Brice, Nate Diaz is kind of the main event for UFC 279 just because this is his last fight and it's kind of like a farewell.
Yeah, it's kind of wild too because most pay-per-views have 2 title fights at least. This one won't even have 1.
Interesting.
It's going to be a 5-round just fight.
Beat the snot out of each other.
Yeah, so it might be pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's again, the card's not materialized, so I don't know who else they're going to put on that card. But it's just going to be weird seeing a pay-per-view without title fights. But that's how much people love Nate Diaz. They'll pay $80 just to watch him fight and get his butt kicked.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I wish the best for Nate. I think he could have picked maybe a better fight to be his last one, kind of. But also, we rarely see these guys announce that they're retiring beforehand. Like Cowboy just recently retired after he got knocked out, and nobody saw that coming. And then someone else really notable a while back, whose name escapes me, kind of announced his retirement after defending his title too, and just kind of like, oh shoot. But so Nate, we know this is going to be.
What about Brice? What do you think about this? Is just because of a Cleveland? Josh and I live in Cleveland. Stipe Miocic, I think that's how you say his name. Is he like, because he hasn't fought in like a year, or it's getting close to a year. Is there any news on him? Like, speaking of retirements, like, is he still in the game? Because he's ranked number 2 right now in the heavyweight. I haven't seen him fight in a while.
Yeah, Stipe is either my second or third fighter between Dustin Poirier and him. I love Stipe. I mean, I'm from Ohio too, so
yeah.
So his thing is weird because it's like he fights once a year, which is really disappointing. Like he fought DC, Daniel Cormier 3 times in a row, but he got the best of those fights. The Francis Ngannou one was really disappointing. I think he went in thinking Ngannou wasn't going to be as good as he was because Ngannou just had a spurt and got really good and surprised Stipe and everybody, really. So I really want to see a trilogy between them. I hope we get one. But the rumor is, and there's always rumors in the UFC, nothing's ever official till you get to see the picture of the contract. But the rumor is Jon Jones, there's a picture floating around, just signed a contract of to fight Stipe in December.
Ooh, that'd be good.
For like an interim belt or something like that. So if that happens, the winner would get to fight Francis Ngannou. But the thing is, earlier in the year, because Francis Ngannou hasn't fought all year, was saying that he was going to be ready to come back by December. So the fight doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because why not just have Jon Jones come in and fight?
Yeah, of course.
And done it.
Right.
Because if that's going to be the case, then Francis Ngannou is going to have to fight somebody else until the winner of Stipe or Jon Jones recovers and can fight him. So I don't know. It's all up in the air, but those 3 are all in the mix still. Like I can confidently say a fight with one of those 3 is going to be announced.
Why don't we just have a triple threat? Triple threat it. Let's just throw all 3 in there. Let's just let them beat the snot out of each other. Then whoever wins comes out on top of the belt. That's what I've just said. Pro wrestling. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh jeez. No, we gotta keep it this way, Ben, because this is what makes the UFC better than the WWE.
Hey, those are athletes too, Josh.
I guess you could say athletes.
Brock Lesnar's over there.
Yes, Brock Lesnar carried that league for a while. I don't even know who's carrying the league now, to be honest. Is it
Roman
Logan
Reigns. Roman Reigns is carrying the league.
Didn't Ric Flair just fight again and retire?
Yeah, but he was in
AEW. Fight, yeah.
AEW, so it's like AEW is basically like just like it's like they try to take away all of the old washed up WWE stars and they put them on the roster. I mean, literally, if you look at the roster, it's all it is. I sometimes will like check in on it just to see what's happening. Like, is Brock Lesnar doing anything? And then you find out he's wrestling like once every 5 months, kind of like he was fighting in the UFC. So it's kind of what happens. So anyways, again, I'm off track. So Josh, please get us back on track.
I did have some questions about Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones that I'll save for Brice near the end, but reeling it back to UFC 280. Now, this one is loaded, Brice. We have the 2 title fights on there. We've got Oliveira taking on who I like to call Baby Khabib. And then we also have Aljamain Sterling taking on Dillashaw. So what can you tell us about these 2 fights coming up? We did have the drama with Oliveira a while back with not being able to make weight. So he's not like the true champion or something like that, but he does kind of have a little bit riding on the line with this fight.
Yeah, so this card is stinking awesome. It's loaded. Again, it still hasn't fully been announced yet as far as the order of the fights go and all the prelims and early prelims, but I think majority of the main card is pretty much set. So yeah, you have Charles Oliveira. It's a fight for the vacant belt because he missed the weight by it 0.4, 0.5
It was something
pounds.
ridiculous.
Very small amount, yeah.
Really dumb. And
does it make the difference, really? Does it? Does it make a difference?
No, because what happens is the UFC fighters, they have to make this weight, but then in the 24 hours or 48 hours, I can't remember what it is, between the time they make the weight and the time they fight again, they actually gain 15 to 20 pounds back in between.
I've heard that too. Yeah. They cut down and then they're eating, and basically those next 2 days to get up to a more competitive weight for themselves.
Yeah. So most people, when you hear the fighting at 135 or fighting at they're actually not fighting at that weight. They're actually fighting at a way heavier weight than they're weighed in at. So no, it doesn't make a difference. No. And they need to figure that out. There's been all kinds of arguments about it, and some commissions, it depends what state you are, how they do the weight system. Some people still use the traditional stupid scale. Some of them now are switching to the digital scale, which a lot of UFC fighters have called for because they think there might be little small errors in the that the human eye is missing or something. So yeah, there's all that drama. But Oliveira, let's be honest, is still the champion. Maybe not technically, but yeah, that'll be a fight for the belt rather than defending the belt. Too early to call any predictions on that, but it's fun to talk about. Right now, I'm favoring Oliveira. As far as the co-main, Sterling, underrated, gets a lot of hate because people call him an actor when Peter Yan kneed him and acted like he couldn't go on, which I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. It did kind of look like he was acting. TJ Dillashaw is an amazing fighter, but he's got some dirt on him because he was suspended for, was it a year or two, for drugs and all that. Came back and won a fight in dominant fashion, gets an automatic title shot. Geez, I don't know when you want me to stop because I'm going to run out of breath, but there's so many good fights that I could keep bringing up on this card.
No, continue on, man. Are there more on the 280 that we know about?
That most people are going to know about. I think most people should know about the Sean Brady and Bilal Muhammad fight. Muhammad's one of these guys that people don't like because he's just winning every fight by holding people up against the fence. And the one
that'd
fight,
be my strategy.
the one fight did look like he was losing against Leon Edwards, who we talked about earlier. Leon Edwards was kicking his butt, and then he accidentally eye poked Muhammad, and Muhammad all of a sudden couldn't continue the fight because I think he was actually going to lose one, and so that one was no contest. So now he's fighting Sean Brady, who is an up and coming star, who I can see being a future champion eventually of the lightweight division in maybe a couple years. I think he beats Muhammad soundly. Go and watch some of his past fights, his highlights. Ground game is phenomenal. He'll beat Muhammad at his own game. You got Beneil Dariush is fighting Gamrot coming up. Dariush is another just really fun jiu-jitsu guy. Watch his fight with Tony Ferguson. That one was wild. You got a great couple women's fights on here. Marina Rodriguez in the strawweight. Definitely looks like another one of those women that are going to be a future champion. Jeez. So here's another fighter, Manon Fiorot, which is a French fighter. She's a female fighter here. She was supposed to be on the French card, but I don't know why it got canceled, but it got canceled and got moved to this card against Caitlin Chikugian, who was a title contender at one point. Again, those are just some of the fights that have been announced. Again, there's still a couple more that I can bring up.
Yeah.
But the card is stacked, and it's going to be in Abu Dhabi, and they promote those Abu Dhabi Fight Island cards so well. They're always so fun. I wish I could go over there to watch the fights because they have so many events surrounding it. The fighters talk about how in Abu Dhabi, they take care of them so well. They get to stay in the best hotels and everything.
Everything there is just beautiful. So, I feel like you can't say anything not nice in Abu Dhabi.
It's a good spot, yeah. But we can move on to 281, which also isn't totally materialized yet. But Brice kind of called this fight after Adesanya's last fight, but Israel Adesanya is taking on Alex Pereira here, who kind of has an interesting backstory here because before both of them were in the UFC, Pereira actually knocked out Adesanya 2 times in kickboxing. So they both have a kickboxing background. Adesanya's got the title for that. Is it the middleweight?
Yeah,
the middleweight. And I mean, I think Israel's last 2 fights with Robert Whittaker, and then this last one they had, I can't remember who it was against. Cannonier, right? Jared Cannonier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he's been more like defensive, kind of like Floyd Mayweather style fighting, almost like he doesn't want to lose the belt that he has it. So he's just doing what he needs to do to pull off the win, and then he's winning by 5-round decisions. And it's honestly, as a fan, it's kind of annoying to watch, but maybe I'm just reading into it too much, or I don't know what I'm seeing.
I love
Brice,
his entrances.
Am I overreacting here, or is he kind of been a little bit boring lately?
Go ahead, Ben. What were you saying real quick?
Oh, I love his entrances. Oh, absolutely. That is what makes
that is the only show Izzy puts on is pre-fight. Once he's in the octagon, it's kind of lame.
But honestly, though, the fact, like, if you wanted to, you were dissing WWE earlier, Josh. If that's anything like that is literally like WWE. Let's just put a show on before you get to the ring, and then you kind of figure out what's going to happen after that. But I was just going to say, I have seen a little bit more of him because obviously everyone loves him, and it's like this. He's just this.
Well, I love him too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've watched him, like, the way he fights, like, before this, like, belt run here, but like previously, it's just like the man literally, like, will sacrifice his whole self just to win a fight. Like, at least he used to. I don't know about now, but
like, you see, like, everybody's seen that clip where he's like, you can't fight me, I'm prepared to die, or something like that. It's like, oh man, I'm sorry, that's a movie.
Bad dude. That is a movie line. Bad dude. That's all I gotta say.
So he has it in him, and I'm just not seeing it. So I think that might be the more frustrating part on my end. But what are your thoughts on that, Brice? Is he kind of being super defensive?
The same thing kind of happened to Jon Jones. He like beat everybody, and then everybody started to like fight him a different way, because I can't just go out here and fight him like a normal fight. I have to do all this boring, conservative, act like I'm going in, going back. People are just trying to do different things or unorthodox things in a fight that it's just hard to calculate and fight against. So Izzy just kind of has to take a back seat and see what comes to him and fight. It's an unfortunate, weird situation when you're a champion and you've beaten everybody. And I mean, it's because other people are scared to fight him. It's because the fights end up being boring. And of course, Izzy's going to still be smart and not expose himself to getting knocked out or something crazy. And he doesn't have to prove himself anymore because he already has. So he doesn't feel like mentally, I think, that he has to run in there and risk his life like he did in Kevin Gastelum when he said that quote, but willing to give his life away and all that in the line. I mean, all that stuff's cool, but he's still a draw. People still love him. But this fight, I mean, if he doesn't do something flashy in this upcoming fight, I think he's going to lose a lot of fans.
I think Pereira is a great matchup for him just because of the history there, but also because of how aggressive he is. Like, if he beats Adesanya, I think it could very well be by knockout just because that's how aggressive he is.
Yeah, like, I mean, this is an awesome story for a fight. I know the kickboxing stuff was a long time ago, but I mean, it doesn't matter. When you have one of the best kickboxers, that's what the UFC is, or the MMA is. It's bringing all the best fighters. Originally, when UFC started in '93, it was about bringing the best fighters from a bunch of different kinds of skill sets. Like, you'd see a big fat sumo wrestler versus a skinny striker. it was about techniques versus techniques. And this fight, I think, is going to be one of those cool traditional examples of, I mean, I know they're both kind of the same style of kickboxing, but when MMA, you utilize more than just kickboxing. So the grappling and clinching and all that kind of stuff will be involved. So, and they're both really equal, I think, when it comes to MMA. And the story's there. It's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be cool.
For sure. Any other upcoming fights, Brice, that we should probably touch on, or do you want to move on to some more fun speculating, rumor dive-in questions now?
I think we covered the only other ones we didn't really.
I don't think we have a 282 announcement yet, right?
No, nothing official. I can see if there's any rumors on anything. Okay, yeah. So I think I don't know if I talked about this in the podcast, but I talked about it earlier. Yuri Prochazka and Glover Teixeira are looking to have a rematch. I don't know if it's officially signed yet, but that, in my opinion, over the Gilbert Burns and Hamzat fight was the fight of the year so far. Man, I don't know if you guys watched that, but if you didn't, go watch it before you watch this next fight in December. UFC always puts on a banger card in December because it's kind of like the last New Year's, Christmas kind of thing. If they rematch, it's going to be awesome.
So,
oh boy, belt. There it is.
There it is. Yes. So, kind of diving into some rumors, we were talking about Francis Ngannou earlier, and I was wondering if he was ever going to fight UFC again, just because there was talk about him being a free agent, and then maybe his
WWE.
interest in background in boxing, maybe leading to a Tyson Fury fight, which Dana wasn't really a huge fan of. But you think we're going to see Francis Ngannou defend his title again in the UFC sometime soon?
Well, let me bring up the Tyson Fury thing real quick. I hope that happens because
that'd be awesome.
I think it's cool too.
That'd be awesome.
I think that's so cool
because
better
they
than
were
Jake Paul
too. Like, oh, I'll do the boxing one, and then you come over and we'll do an MMA one. That'll be awesome.
Now, if we could get that, yeah, like
but Tyson Fury's starting to pull off the whole Conor McGregor thing where he retires and comes out. Like just today, I think this morning I saw breaking news: Tyson Fury retires again. I'm like, give me a break,
dude. We don't even believe it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we hit on it a little earlier. Francis Ngannou is going to fight. I think either if he doesn't fight in December, against like a Jon Jones kind of thing, I think we'll see him fight in January or February. Okay. His leg timetable as far as getting healed is, I think, almost up. So
yeah, didn't he have surgery on both of his knees? Was it?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the storylines when he fought Cyril Gane was watch out for how he moves and then how he kicks, just because his knees aren't like all the way there. He's going to get surgery after the fight, and he had to rely more on his striking, which kind of played to his favor just with the boxing background.
Yeah, his doctor didn't even want him to fight. He was wearing the guards,
the knee sleeves.
Yeah. But it was funny because he ended up grappling very well in that fight, and that's part of the reason he won, because Gagne had no grappling game whatsoever. He's getting out grappled by this Goliath-sized man.
Yeah, Ngannou's huge, dude. But yeah, we can talk about Jon Jones now too, who I don't remember what weight he was fighting at the last time he was in the octagon, but he's coming back bigger in the heavyweight. Maybe fight Stipe, maybe fight Ngannou, but I would love to see Jon Jones in the ring again just because of how good of a fighter he is. I mean, some people say he's the greatest UFC fighter of all time. That's probably arguable or disputable, but you think we're going to see Jon in the ring again, or you think we're going to continue to see like some negative drug tests or just other drama keep him out?
If he goes in and wins a fight in the heavyweight or wins a couple, I think he justifies the best fighter in UFC history kind of ranking. He's going to fight again. Like I said earlier, I think he's going to end up fighting Stipe, which is a shame because I love Stipe, and I think Jon Jones will beat Stipe. But yeah, again, the drug stuff's kind of blown out of proportion, I think. Yeah, there was some trouble there, but it was always like really minute stuff. The stuff that really should trouble you more about Jon Jones is the trouble he's had with the law and just constantly, he tries to live this lifestyle like he's been this great guy and doing great things from the community, but that stuff, I guess we're talking about morals now, but that doesn't justify doing a few nice things doesn't justify all the crappy stuff you've been doing and bad decisions and hitting your wife and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I'm so tired of that stuff, man. Like, just get it together. How hard is it?
Yeah.
He'll fight again, and I think it's gonna be sooner than later. I think he wanted to fight sooner, but he hasn't just yet. But he said he's just gonna continue bulking up, and he has. I mean, if you see the pictures of that man, it's crazy how he's made the transition from.
Yeah, like it's not a fat heavyweight. It's it's in shape similar like what Francis Ngannou is, to be honest.
And that's like between him and Brock Lesnar were like the two guys that even got me to realize what UFC was. Like those are the two guys. Like you look at Brock Lesnar, he just looks like one of those farm guys that you don't want to mess with. Get on his lawn. He's not going to use a gun. He's just going to grab you and throw you into the wall, right? And then you have Jon Jones, who, by my standard, you look at him, it's like he is like in my opinion, right, from a very novice side of things, it reminds me of like what Usain Bolt has done in speed running, and what some of these other guys are just like, they're freaks. You don't know how they do it. But, and again, my question for you is, right, do you think, how many of you think of out of all of these kind of guys that are on the fringe of like, will they fight again? One of the big guys that we always hear talking about is Conor McGregor. I know Josh is probably going to bring this up. My question to you is this. We know that Conor McGregor at one time was probably the most watched athlete, probably around, if not in the top 5 of all of in that time in the world. He was the most watched. The question I have now is, he did this whole thing with, you know, going in, I'm going to box, no, I'm going to fight. Oh, Jake Paul, come get me. All these different things. My question to you is, will he end up coming back to the ring and back to the octagon, I should say, and will he fight again? Or do you think he's just doing this to get this, like, I don't know, popularity built back up and then just break everyone's hearts again like he seems to do?
Yeah, I think it's that, unfortunately. It's sad to say. I mean, he's going to be a movie star now. He signed on for a remaking of, I can't remember what the 80s movie is.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple days ago, he said, yeah, goodbye MMA game. It was a fun time because I'm going to go be a movie star now. And then just yesterday, he made another Instagram post like, oh, I'm back. I'm ready. And it's so annoying.
Is he the Jake Paul of UFC?
See, the funny thing is, people say that, but Jake Paul actually models himself after Conor McGregor. It's not the other way around.
Oh, that's creepy. That's just weird.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you could say, yeah, he is. At this point, he's a genius because he is just marketing himself. Anything he says is gonna make him money. Even if it's controversial, that's the whole point. It gets people talking about you. So he's gonna say whatever he needs to say to make more people talk about him. If that's retiring one day and then coming out of retirement the next, what's gonna get people talking about him more? That. So,
Josh, I know what our next job needs to be, Josh. Let's just quit and talk about ourselves and then start it again. I'm kidding.
But as far as him fighting again, it's just if I had to guess, I'd say yes. Because at some point, like you said, there's going to be an up and down situation. And I think if you look at the top 10 pay-per-views, he's every single one. He might not be number 10, but I know he is in the all top 5 pay-per-views.
That's a moneymaker.
Yeah, he's going to get a fight. He'll fight somebody. Who knows? I wish it was kind of going to be the Nate Diaz trilogy because that would have been insane. But that's not been
cool. Yeah.
Izzy. That's what I want to see. Bulk up and get Izzy. That's what I'm going to say.
Conor actually is ranked 12th in the lightweight right now.
Charles Oliveira wants to fight Conor McGregor because he wants the money payday. So all these people that call
that's why everybody calls him out. Like they'll win their fight. Like Michael Chandler's called out Conor McGregor. Oliveira's done it. It's like it's equally annoying to me that they want to fight him because to me a win over Conor at this stage of his career doesn't mean anything. But it's the payday that attracts them more so than the competition, I think.
Yeah, and especially with the whole getting paid issue in the UFC right now, everybody wants to get paid more. So.
That actually was my last question for you, Brice, on the UFC discussion was pay, because I saw the other day Dana White said he is not going to raise pay for fighters because they're already getting reasonably paid. They get 20% of the revenue share, which is a little less than the other major sports leagues like NFL, NBA, MLB, but they also have players associations. But I also don't really ever hear too many of the top UFC guys complaining about pay. I hear more so Jake Paul saying that they're underpaid and maybe they just don't really believe it. But are the guys actually underpaid? Should Dana give them a little bit better of a share? Or is he just kind of keeping it all for himself?
Yeah, just to hit a couple of things to start with, the Jake Paul thing. I mean, I think he is saying some valid things. Like of all the craziness Jake Paul does and says, I think he is right about some of the pay things. And I think it was pretty cool how I can't remember what fighter it was. It was a girl fighter. He ended up like helping pay for her camp and everything so she could train. All that stuff's not cheap. I mean, that's part of the reason fighters complain. It's not free to just train and fight unless you're going to go in your own backyard and hit a punching bag. But training for an MMA fight requires a lot more than that. I mean, you got to get gyms, you got to get coaches, equipment, all those.
And that's all out of their pocket.
And again, yeah. And when they get paid to fight, the money that they earn more than half of it just covers the costs of all that stuff, and they only get a small amount left to use for themselves to live and start a family and all that stuff. So Jake Paul has some good points, and I'm really shocked that Dana White came out and said that, because he's always been kind of like really
people
lenient.
think he's one of the best commissioners in sports.
Yeah, and I think so too. And we just have to listen to both sides. I think there's some valid things that Dana White says too, because a couple of pay-per-views ago, somebody asked him a question about Jake Paul thing, and he said the reason why that Jake Paul fight got canceled, he thinks it was basically like a setup, because apparently it cost like $500,000 just to turn on the lights at MSG, and he thinks that money, or the fight with Jake Paul and the other guy, wasn't going to even bring in barely any pay-per-views, so they just found a way to come up with a story and cancel it. I mean, it's just not cheap to put on the show. Now, does that justify not paying fighters more? Come on. Luke Rockhold just this morning or last night was complaining about the fighter bonus. So fighters at the end of each pay-per-view or fight night, they reward the fighters who did the best like a $50,000 bonus. But that $50,000 bonus has been something that has been in play since like mid GSP days. Like, why is the bonus still only $50,000 when the UFC has grown by billions of dollars more since then? Like, you can't afford to give a bonus of 100,000. Like,
that's a good point.
They're getting to the point where they need to start giving some more incentive, or the fights are actually going to start. You're going to start hurting the entertainment of the fights. Fighters aren't going to be more willing to put themselves at risk and go head to head and put on a star fight, because it just might not be worth it. But if you're throwing in $100,000 to put on the best fight of the night, you're giving your fighters a little more incentive. So I think they just, I'm a little ignorant. I plead ignorance as far as a lot of that stuff goes, but I feel like there's no reason that there can't be some more pay, some more incentives.
Yeah. For sure. I was just checking the net worth of like some of the top guys. And I mean, Usman's net worth is estimated to be around 3 million. Charles Oliveira's net worth is around 2.5 million. And those guys are like, they got belts right now. So I can't imagine what it's like being one of the guys that doesn't have a belt, or at even lower, one of the guys that's kind of up and coming. Is just like, they got to be even, I mean, significantly less. Like, these are what the top guys are worth. Then the majority of the fighters definitely aren't making that much. And yeah, so maybe there's some things that Dana can do. I think he runs the league pretty well, but those are some good points right there. You just
Josh, he runs it better than Roger Goodell. That's all I'm going to say.
It's not very hard to top Goodell. But hey, speaking of Goodell, we want to talk to Brice about some NFL stuff too. Segue, yeah,
that's what I'm here for.
Ben with the perfect segue right there. Yes. So
he's going to switch it up. He's switching it up.
Yes. Get rid of that belt. Get rid of that.
Oh,
there we go. We got the Eagles hat on.
We're back. If you're listening, it doesn't really change anything. But if you're watching, you'll notice it was really awkward that he changed that and then we disappeared. It's called Internet in Europe. That's what it's called. So it was on my end. No worries. We are back in the same episode. Didn't go anywhere. So Josh, continue what you were saying before you were abruptly interrupted by some idiot in Europe.
We had the cool transition too with the Roger Goodell comment too.
I know.
So I don't know if we're gonna have that on the cut, but yeah, we're transitioning from UFC and Dana White discussion to NFL, because we also would like to get some of Brice's thoughts on what's going on in that NFC East division, and he's also an Eagles fan, so he's got the Eagles hat back on now. And I'm kind of curious, Brice, just how you kind of became an Eagles fan. And your fandom to me is interesting, being a White Sox fan, an Anaheim Ducks fan, Cleveland Cavs fan, then Philadelphia Eagles. So being an Eagles fan, did that have anything to do with Donovan McNabb and Terrell Owens?
Yes and no. So as I was talking about before we had the little cut, so I was a big lover of the Madden video game even before I enjoyed watching the NFL. And the logo, when you're a kid, the logos are cool, the team names are cool. So I actually liked the Panthers and played as the Panthers in Madden all the time. And after a couple of years of playing Madden with the Panthers and calling myself a Panthers fan, my mom wanted to get me a new winter coat. In Ohio, it gets really cold and snowy. For your hungry fans that are watching this, I don't know what the weather's like over there.
It's actually identical to what it is in Ohio. So
okay, so then they know.
They also know.
So yeah, I had to pick out a new winter coat, and my mom said, "Oh, I can get you like a NFL coat of your favorite team." So we looked at all 32 teams, and I wanted the Panthers one, and it was she didn't like the color. She's like, "Oh, these colors are kind of odd because it wasn't like a black color. It was the really light blue one they do."
Yeah.
And she was like, "I just don't think you'd look good on that." She said, "Oh, how about this one?" And she scrolled over to the Eagles one, which had the Kelly green, and it looked really, or not the Kelly green. It was the midnight green. I'm sorry. And and I said it did look cool, but I was like, let me think about it. So I went to go back to my Madden video game, and I tried to play as the Eagles. And this is the year they just so happened, the first year they had TO. And the first moment that I started throwing bombs from McNabb to TO, I fell in love with the Eagles through the video game. And I went out to my mom and I was like, "Get me the Eagles coat. I'm an Eagles fan now."
You traitor.
So my Eagles coat comes
traitor.
in, and I start watching the Eagles games religiously, and then they go to the Super Bowl the same year that I picked them. So that kind of solidified my fanship. Like, oh yeah, I'm an Eagles fan. We're in the Super Bowl. Of course, we lost to the Patriots, but I've been with the Eagles ever since. So here we are.
Man, I gotta tell you, that's one of the most wild NFL fan stories I've ever heard. I've heard of the video game, like I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But then you threw me a curveball there with the Panthers. I was like, okay, I wonder how this is gonna switch to the Eagles. So, all right.
Have you noticed, Josh, that all these kind of fans, like they switch the Eagles, and then us Browns fans, like we're so passionate and we
missed our opportunity to switch.
We're so content with losing.
Switch, yeah.
We're so content with almost being there, and then we're just like, screw it. Let's just stay with them.
We've played the Madden game. Yeah, we just kind of missed our opportunity to switch when we were like 12 years old and it was still reasonable. So yeah,
I want to say,
yeah, Tim Coach was just so promising. Right?
Listen. I will say this, Brice. I will say that like anytime I play Madden, right, and you look at the Browns and they're like 78 overall, and you're like, wow, this team sucks. I was the first guy that would go in and create like 7 players and be like, okay, 99 overall. This raises the Browns. 100%, the Browns turn into a monster on franchise mode, have like 7 Super Bowls. And then I'm like, in real life, I watch them. It's like 0-16. I'm like, I'm in a bad place.
Man, yeah. The Madden video game too. I actually traded Mike Vick to the Browns.
Oh, of course.
Back when he was in
Everyone
the game,
did.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I did want to point out one quick funny thing about it's funny that I live an hour from Charlotte now. So if I would have just stuck with being a Panthers fan, I'd probably go to the Panthers games all the time.
Hey, the Panthers-Browns play first week. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they do. I have some friends that actually want to go to that one not because they're Browns fans, because the tickets are really cheap.
And also because Baker Mayfield plays the Browns, and it's going to be very fascinating.
Big story to that one.
Yeah. We can talk maybe Browns later, but I did want to kind of get some thoughts on the Eagles with Brice, because last year was kind of interesting for him. They go 9-8, finish the wild card with Jalen Hurts as starting quarterback. What do you think of Jalen, Brice?
Oh boy.
I thought he took a pretty big step forward last year. I'm personally a big Jalen Hurts fan. I love watching him in college, and I felt like when he got drafted that he was going to be like a good locker room guy that works hard, maybe not a super successful starter, but a guy that's going to stick around the NFL just because of his athleticism and just the attitude he has. But last year, I thought he kind of maybe surprised some people with how, he led the team to the playoffs, and this year, now he's got some more weapons. What's your overall assessment of Jalen Hurts? Is he going to be the Eagles franchise quarterback, or do you think they're going to maybe give him this year to see what he does and maybe move on maybe later on?
So with Jalen Hurts, I was actually super upset when they drafted him when they had Wentz, because I was a huge.
It didn't make sense at that time when they did. No. You're right.
Yeah, it didn't. But I guess it does now. But it didn't then. And I loved Wentz, and I was a Wentz believer till the very end. I mean, even when we traded him off and to Indy, I was like, dang, I still wish we would have kept Wentz. Now my perspective has kind of changed now, especially now that he's in Washington. But
being in the division, yeah.
Well, yeah, being in the division, that's kind of annoying. I hate when it was McNabb that did that too when he went to Washington. Yeah. I was really I wasn't as optimistic as you were. I know you and I talked about it briefly sometimes. I don't know. I'm still up in the air about him. Because last year I saw him play and I said, okay, there's definitely room to grow for sure, but in good ways. Like I can see him growing in those directions. Like he overthrew a lot of wide receivers, I think. But again, he didn't have a lot of weapons to work with. He really didn't, and neither did Wentz necessarily because of injuries and all that. So this year, I mean, he's in a no excuse situation, and I think it's all or nothing this year. I really do think he has this year to prove himself. And if he doesn't, I think we do need to like move on and look for a franchise thing. So I can't answer that question whether he's a franchise guy or not, because I think this is the year where we'll be able to tell that.
Yeah.
Do I think he is personally? I think he's a great locker room kind of guy, leader. I see the potential to make plays and all that. But so far from what I've seen, I don't list him as like a franchise quarterback. Not like I did with Wentz, but when unfortunately his career was done with injuries.
Yeah,
we'll
I think
I want to be proven wrong.
Yeah, I think when you bring up, or when anybody brings up franchise quarterback, that's got to be a guy that can lead your team to a win, and that you don't necessarily have to have everything perfect around him. He's a guy that you can count on to win you games. Whereas there's maybe that lower level quarterback with like Jimmy G, and you could throw Jalen Hurts in there, and maybe some of these other guys that can do things that won't necessarily lose you the game because everything else around him is pretty set in stone, pretty solid, and then they just kind of manage the game, don't do anything that stupid or turn the ball over. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see Jalen do that. And I think the Eagles did a lot of good stuff this offseason to put him in a position to succeed. They made the big splash trade for AJ Brown. Maybe he won't make as big of an impact, but I think having Devin Allen, the Olympic hurdler, is going to be kind of a fun guy to watch. And they also have Devontae Smith at wide receiver and Dallas Goedert at tight end. And they led the league in rushing last year. I imagine Jalen had something to do with that, as well as the stable running backs that they got. So how are you feeling after the offseason, the draft? Even on the defensive side, they add Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis from that generational Georgia defense. So Eagles are looking in pretty good shape, I think, after this offseason.
Yeah. I think we took a step up in like almost every category, and especially every category that we need to. I think we're still a little weak in the defensive end as far as like linebacker or maybe safety goes. So I think we need a little more depth there. Injuries on our team is still always a concern. We just have a lot of beat up guys, but we took a step forward in every direction. And Hurts has all the weapons he needs offensively I think they eliminated all the excuses for him. Like he has all the tools. Again, like you just kind of said, I hope he can go beyond the whole character of just being a playmaker, but being a game winner. And he is a playmaker. We know that. We've seen it, and we're going to see it. But is he going to win the games? Yeah, I'm happy with everything the Eagles did. The draft was fantastic. And I guess what would lead me into comparing it to the rest of the NFC East, like I'm really excited for the upcoming season because I think I wrote it down in the past 17 seasons, there's been a different winner in the NFC East.
Nobody's been going back to back, yeah.
And so it's like, well, this year, it was Dallas last year. I don't think it will be this year because I think they took a step back in every direction.
I think so too.
I don't know how anyone could say they could take a step forward.
Hey, I'm the one that said it was going to be a surprise team last week, so on our NFL preview. So maybe I'm just the only one out there. Oh boy.
So I actually think the Eagles are going to be the surprise team. I think people are still think they're just going to be like middle level kind of thing, but I think we're going to win the division. I didn't say that last year. I really thought Dallas was like a Super Bowl caliber team last year. I think last year was their year to do it.
But it's Dallas, so as Stephen A would say, they're just going to fail. So
the only time I like Stephen A is when he criticizes Dallas.
It's great.
But yeah, I think. I mean, come on, the Giants. I don't even think they have confidence in Daniel Jones at their quarterback. Running backs, having all-star running backs is kind of a thing of the past. So I will say Saquon's not going to win them anything. Commanders.
It's the commies. We go commies on here. Yeah, we call them the commies.
I don't even know what to say about them. I mean, they're all in just growing stages. I think the Eagles are the solid bet to win the East.
Let's just be honest. The East is like one of those that like you like watch and you're like, oh, this is going to be like one of those years that's like if you're 9-8, 8-9, you have a chance to
It wasn't too long ago that the winner of the division was what 7-8-1. It was Washington, right? Like it's a division, and Brice brought up the fact that nobody's ever gone back to back, but there's some years where it's just like nobody seems to want to win the division.
Yeah, they always beat each other up. I mean, division team they play each other twice a year in the division, so it's like they all split each other. They all go 1-1.
Yeah, if y'all go 3-3, it's
I mean, that's 6 of your games already. People say the East is horrible. The East is horrible. It's like it's because they beat each other up. They're really competitive games against each other all the time. They're all considered great rivalry games.
My question is, why do they call the East, but then you have Dallas, which is like Texas? I'm always confused at the whole alignment thing. Like the whole.
There's always one team in a division. It seems like that doesn't make any sense.
AFC North makes sense. Literally every team is within Baltimore's a little farther east, but it's still like within driving distance of each other if you really wanted to. In some sense.
I saw an article or an image that somebody put together with all the divisions and conferences, like if it were to make sense, and it was actually really cool. I don't have the time to bring up the image now, but it might be something to look at later. It was really cool how, because you saw some of the AFC teams and the NFC teams, and it all just made a whole lot more sense the way they set it up.
Of course, yeah.
Like, isn't the AFC South division the one that has the Colts?
It's so
in it?
wacky.
It's like the Colts are right up here. Yeah,
so wacky.
I mean, college football is getting kind of like that too with their whole.
Yeah, there's no geography involved with any of the conferences anymore. But we were talking about weapons, Brice, with the Eagles, and you mentioned that you were frustrated with the Jalen Hurts pick initially. So I do have to ask you now, in hindsight, seeing how Jalen Reagor's career's turned out and all the receivers that were kind of drafted after him, how frustrated or excited were you when the Eagles initially drafted Jalen Reagor?
I was optimistic because I think the Eagles front office has done a great job at kind of doing those picks you might not know about, and then they kind of the players just like they're seeing things in some guys that maybe everybody else doesn't see, and they kind of succeed. And unfortunately, that one was just a dud. There's no if or what about it. It's so. I mean, it's obviously disappointing, but who knows? I mean, maybe those guys now, like Justin Jefferson or whatever, maybe they wouldn't have been as good if they went somewhere else. Who knows? It's just how the way you develop when you get to that team, and maybe they just got in the perfect situation for them. Maybe Jefferson wouldn't have been as good in Philly.
It's like the Browns pick. What was that back? I forget what year it was. Coleman, remember him, Josh?
Corey
we love
Coleman.
him, don't we? We love him.
I hated that pick when they made it.
Love him so much, and then he dropped that pass that would have made us 1-15. We could have just won one game that year. For his drop.
Yeah, I hated that pick when we made it. But the guy that I am still the most upset that we passed on to this day is Julio Jones. I think it was the 2011 draft, and we had the 6th pick, and we traded back, gave it to Atlanta, and then they took Julio. And Julio's just, he's turned into my favorite wide receiver of all time. And yeah, it's just watching him be successful elsewhere. It's just like, man, there's very few guys, it seems like, that are going to dominate the league, because sometimes there's just so many question marks around guys. But Julio was just a guy. It's like, this guy's going to dominate the league. What are you doing? So, yeah, it's Jalen Reagor. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, maybe if Justin Jefferson was in Philly, it wouldn't have been the same, because offense and quarterback play do have a lot to do with that. Ben, can you remind me why you think Dallas is going to be a surprise team? Because
I
like everything Philly did. Dallas lost Amari Cooper, and
I said so last week. I was saying that I really like. This is the thing. They lose Amari Cooper, and first off, I think they didn't. I always wonder what Jerry thinks in his head, right? I just want to be in his office. What does he talk to these the GMs and stuff and discuss? He is the GM pretty much. Let's be honest. But my thing was, I think Zeke's going to have a better year than he did last year. I think, I don't know what, right? I've always been a Zeke fan ever since I saw him against Alabama run. I forget this. The announcer was running through the South, right? That's what he said. Ever since then,
Zeke and Dak are entering their 7th season. Isn't it crazy how long they've already been in the league?
And I feel so old.
Yeah. And with Dak, I think I said last week on the podcast, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said I think Dak's one of those guys that I'm interested to see who they have at receiver, right? They have CeeDee Lamb, who I think is very underrated.
I love CeeDee.
I love CeeDee Lamb. And I think there's a lot of unknowns when it comes to the receiver core, but I do like Dak. I'm one of the very few that think Dak can at least, I think he's better than, I mean, he's definitely better than the Houston Texans quarterback. But he's one of those guys that I think can manage a game. And I think that's what you need in the NFL, is someone that can manage. The defense is where I actually like a lot of what they've been doing lately. They have, and I slip in my head because I can't remember his name now. Rookie, Parsons. Like, I love Parsons, freak athlete. Their DBs, they're not great. They're talented. I just think that it's personally between the East. I believe it's going to be between Dallas and Philly. I've always thought that. I think Washington's nowhere. I feel bad because McLaurin's my dude, and I feel like Washington's just going to be off to the distance. Giants, why are we even discussing them? But I do think it's going to be down to Dallas and the Eagles. I just feel like Dallas, they're on this moment where I feel like they have a break coming to them. Like, for so many years now, they've had this, like, they get to the playoffs, lose, or they almost make the playoffs, they lose. I don't know. That was just like, when I was going through each team, I just felt like I looked at the roster up and down. And again, I said the same thing about the Browns last year, and then the Browns didn't do well at all. So again, that is just my thing. I think the defense is what's going to carry, if a defense can carry a team. I feel like the defense for the Cowboys, after looking at it, could be the strength, because I don't know what they're going to do. The offensive line seems to be getting older. They're not the same as they once were. And the receiving core, I'm interested to see who's going to be the receivers. But I do believe, that's my one thing I'll stand on, is Zeke is going to have a big year this year. I want to put my pen in. That is my summary of a very broad statement.
I'm actually scrolling through to see what Dallas has done recently. I mean, they did go 12-5 and win the division last year, but before that, they went 6-10. That's, of course, when Dak was injured. They also had the 8-8 season, 10-6, 9-7, then 13-3 that first year that Zeke and Dak were both there. So yeah, Dallas is just, their issue is just been consistency. It's never a lack of talent, right? Like last year, they led the league in points, and I think total offense is just staying consistent. I think even one time I think they did what the Chargers did, where they led the league in total offense and defense and still missed the playoffs. So,
and what would you say, Brice? I want to hear your thoughts, because I mean, again, I know you're an Eagles fan, so it's like me with the Bengals. Like, I'm gonna just bash the Bengals as much as I can. But from a realistic, like, if you were just sitting there looking at them, what is your thoughts then?
As far as
the Cowboys, or the Cowboys, like, what are you thinking? Where's their high this year? Like, do they go 10-7? Do you think they go 7-10? Like, where do you think, with what they have right now, realistically, like, if you were to look at the team?
Well, before I get to that, I was going to ask you, is that your hot take for the year? You think they're going to break the 17-year streak and Dallas is going to?
Oh, no, my hot take this year is that the Los Angeles Chargers will be finishing fourth in the AFC West, because of a certain person that I don't want to name on. I don't know if I can name him or not, but no, AFC West that's my hot take, is that the Chargers will finish fourth in the AFC West.
That's not even my real hot take, but I'm with Ben on the fact that we were talking the AFC West and making predictions there, just how loaded that division is. And I was just like, I don't see, like, it's so hard to pick a team to finish last there, but I had to go with the Chargers.
So that's
there's always something about the Chargers. Like last year with that bad timeout call at the end of the game to keep them from that playoff appearance last year. And then they've been the one seed in the playoffs before, going 14-2, and then they lose the first game, and they lead the league in offense and defense and still miss the playoffs. It's just, there's always something with the Chargers. So in a division where, like, everybody got better, Kansas City was probably the only team that didn't get better this offseason, but still a team that was in the AFC Championship and won a Super Bowl not too long ago. It's just like, I got to go with the Chargers going last, and it's going to have nothing to do with Justin Herbert. It's going to have to do everything, I think, with what the front office and the coaching is going to do.
So, Brice, technically, yes, it is a hot take, because it would be the first time in 17 years that a team's won back-to-back.
Low-key hot take that we had no idea.
It's a low-key. Yeah, it's a low-key hot take that I got.
Back.
That's what I want to say. Low-key.
So you think Dallas beats Philly both times then, or they split? Or they...
I think I'm going to lean more towards a split. I think it's literally the NFC East. When has it ever been like sweeping? Like, I feel like they will sweep the Giants. I think the Giants will lose. I think they're going to lose. I've said the Giants are going to lose a lot of games this year. And I think the the commies, they'll it's just funny every time I say it. I think they'll be another team where I think that both the Eagles, I think the Eagles and Dallas, both Philly and Dallas could go in and get 2 wins in New York and in Washington.
Ben, I don't know how much this changes your mind. I'm looking at the Cowboys schedule this year.
I looked at it earlier,
start.
Yeah.
Okay. They have home games with Tampa Bay and Cincinnati to start the year.
I'm just
going out of the division. I'm going out of the division. Yeah. Then they also have to go to LA to take the Rams.
Ooh,
they also have, this will probably be a win, a home game against Detroit, home game against Chicago. Yeah. Then they also have to go to Green Bay. They have to go to Minnesota. They host the Colts. I know it's the NFL and like any given Sunday and stuff, everybody's good. Oh, and they also have a road game at Tennessee too, but that's so tough. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they come out.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like that's why like last week I said it's a possible chance, but I also know that the Eagles are also another team that Josh and I have talked about the Eagles multiple times through our draft specials and everything like that. Like
we love the Eagles draft.
We love the Eagles what they did, and so that's why I'm saying it's a hot take. It's a minute hot take because I don't know if it will happen. I do think it's more possible that the Chargers finish last than the Cowboys winning the division. Okay. So yeah, that's my take, Brice.
Yeah.
So back to the initial question.
I still think the East is probably going to be a toss-up, but 17 years, I don't see that streak breaking. I'm giving it to Philly just based on that superstition.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Of course.
I'll say I don't know if it's a hot take, but I'll say only one team comes out of the East this year, as per usual. I think most years. Yeah. Well, not most years, but Philly comes out. I think Dallas will end up going like, well, we got 17 games now.
Yeah, 17.
I'll give them 9 wins.
9 wins. Interesting.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you don't think that Dallas can get in as a wild card? You think those wild card teams are going to come out of?
Yeah,
maybe.
I think the rest of the NFL.
I don't know if you can go 9-8 anymore. Maybe. I think it's a really tough shot to go 9-8
because there is an extra playoff team now as well. So.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, that is true.
True. Yeah, I forgot.
That's what I was just thinking. Is like you can imagine the Rams are going to win their division. Tampa Bay wins their division. We'll say the Eagles win their division and Green Bay wins their division. And then what are the other wild cards?
Dude, it's the Bears. Are we going the Bear? I'm kidding, Josh.
For wild cards, are we saying maybe like the Saints, Minnesota, and the 49ers? Because I mean, that sounds like a pretty reasonable guess then.
I'd actually probably put Dallas over the 49ers.
Yeah, why are you? Yeah, dude, Josh, stop it. We talked about this last week.
I'm going reasonable here.
Josh,
we don't know what Trey Lance is going to do.
We
don't know what Trey Lance is going to do. They still have that defense intact. They re-signed Deebo Samuel. They got George Kittle out there.
I will say I was a Niners doubter last year, and I had like 2 friends that were Niners fans, one at work, and I kept saying, I don't know how the Niners are going to go this far. And they did. They did surprise me, but I'm still gonna be ignorant.
I'm sorry. I'm a Trey Lance. I'm not a fan of Trey Lance. So Josh knows that.
I don't
I'm
understand
not a fan of him
at all.
I didn't understand the reason that they drafted Trey Lance either, but I'm saying the jury's out on Trey, but it's still reasonable as long as he doesn't do anything to lose games like what Jimmy G did. Like they didn't rely on him to win too much. So if Trey can just kind of come in and do what Jimmy did and just hand the ball off 30 times a game, let the defense do their thing and score maybe 20 points a game, then they could maybe not have much of a drop off. But yeah, Trey Lance would have to be very, very bad, I think, for the 49ers to maybe not necessarily be a bad team, but miss the playoffs. I still am not going to rule them out just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule them on the playoffs, I guess.
But, yeah, I bring all that up just to say that, yeah, maybe out of that NFC East, we are only going to see one team.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Ben, that was all the questions I had NFL related. Do you have anything else that you want to ask, Brice, before we wrap up?
I have one thing because it's the thing that's driving Josh nuts for the last 6 months of his life is, Brice, what is your thoughts on Desean Watson? I want to know your thoughts on the suspension, thoughts on what's going on, because Josh has been very adamant. We both have. I will give you a background, Brice. Both of us have said that we disagree on the fact that Josh is very frustrated that they let Baker go and they got him for and the amount of money they're paying Desean. But we both agree that we honestly think he should have got either less than 6 games or nothing because he has not been proven guilty in court, right? Twice he's went to court. He's been proven not guilty. Nothing's been proven criminally. Has he done some stupid stuff? Probably.
Yeah. Like at the very least, you can say he violated the personal conduct policy, and then you get the 6 games that Judge Stu Robinson suggested. But
yeah,
because the way that I look at it, it's like, okay, he either did it and 6 games is way too light, or he didn't do it, and then why are we suspending him to begin with?
Yes. So Brice, we want to know, what is your take on the suspension, and was it the right suspension, or should it be longer or shorter? Your thoughts?
I mean, I have my personal opinions on his character and if I think he's telling the truth or not and those things. But again, what you say is true if what has been proven and what hasn't. And as far as that goes, maybe real quickly you could brief me or educate me on what exactly has happened in the court aspect of it, because I haven't really followed it. I mean, have they shown legit evidence? And it just
we do know that he settled with, I think, 26 of the 30 that accused him.
30,
He's gone through 2 different trials, and 2 juries have both found him not guilty.
Yeah,
that's everything that we know as far as that goes. I mean, as far as like 100%, we'll never know, but we do know that I think they mentioned too that some of those massage therapists signed him on for like a second visit. So it's like, if he was so bad that first time, why would you like?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are just not clear. There's a lot of things that are clear.
A lot of gray stuff. So,
but I think because there is so much gray stuff, you do have to doubt Watson telling the truth. I mean, it's just good because there's so much there. You know, obviously, if he's not proven guilty in the court, I think he should be able to play his games. I think there should probably be a suspension just for being involved in all of
course.
that.
Yeah,
if 30 people come out and say, there's no way 30 people could have just got together and collaborated.
Well, the other thing too about all those 30 is like they're all coming from like the same lawyers. So it's like if you get one, like, and this tends to happen a lot with lawyers, they see dollar signs and money and like how big of a case this can be. And then so they'll reach out to other people and be like, asking them questions, and then maybe convince them that they were violated, and then they can just add that to like their case, and then that brings more money to them.
Yeah,
but I think, see that. Yeah, I think the biggest problem though, Brice, that I have, and I think Josh even has with it, is just how Roger Goodell is basically becoming judge, jury, and executioner with this.
But with the new CBA, now he's only the judge and the executioner, and Sue Robinson's more of the jury.
But now that he's redone it and he got to appoint the guy he wants, like, that's what a lot of people kind of said. Like, wait, well, hold up. Aren't we in America where like you once you got something handed down, and like the NFLPA was like, hey, we'll take it, right? And I think I was listening to a lot of different people talk about this, and my biggest thing is like, do we want a commissioner that basically is going to it doesn't like what's been ruled, so hey, I'm going to go pick my own person and then go do it again. And so for me, that's where I'm just uneasy, because the man's already missed a whole season last year, and then he's missed 6 games this year. That is a total of 23 games. If he misses the next 11 games, that's 34 games you're making this guy miss, where he's been proven not guilty. Yeah, he's made some mistakes. Yeah, he's made some stupid choices. But is it really worth to make a political point or whatever he's trying to do? I don't know. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I was going to bring up. I think it is unfortunate. I mean, not to make this political, but I think it has political means behind it. I think it all has, I mean, with everything now, especially with ESPN and sports, it's ridiculous. I think there is a big agenda behind it. And I think Goodell, to some point, is kind of like a puppet, you know, similar to some people in our office in America right now. And I think he's just pressured.
You ain't wrong. We agree.
I think Goodell's just being pressured to say these things to make it seem like he's standing up for us. Again, trying not to get all political, but for certain activist groups. And so he has to be pressing about these kinds of things to check off all the marks. So like, oh, I said this to please this group. I'm pleasing this group. I'm pleasing this group. So now this group's not going to be pressuring down on me. So I think Goodell's just playing the role. He's trying to act like a commander to just, you know, make him seem like he's an authoritative in power as well. And I mean, I think that kind of sums it up. I do think it's just that. Let the guy get a 6-game suspension. Let him play. I mean,
let him do it. And I think that's the biggest thing.
2 years in that same Deshaun just seems
outside of it. is he's guilty.
No, I mean, that's the thing. Like, right, like
Yeah.
we've said on this show multiple times, like we if he's done it and we can and it's proven, like Josh and I will be the first ones to stand up and say, like, give it to him, right?
Yeah.
But we're just saying, like, dude, the guy has been proven not guilty in court. And we're just sitting here acting like the man has just been accused of murder. Like, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's where it doesn't add up. And you have other guys. We talked last week. Wow, that's loud outside. Sorry. We have guys we talked about last week how there's been guys in history, right, that have done a lot of other things that have not got any suspension. So where's the line drawn? And so again, that's what Josh and I are both like trying to say is like, we're not definitely, if he did something wrong, penalize him, punish him. But if we're just going to start choosing because people say so, like that's a scary road. And I'm in Europe right now. 30 years ago, that's what happened here. And so I can understand why people are on edge about this, because does this translate to other things in life, not just
exactly.
sports?
I was about to bring that up. That it has implications to things outside of the NFL. This isn't just about Roger Goodell and this situation. I mean, it's just changing the way culture thinks about things and setting up these big brother type figures, and it's
terrifying.
Scary
That's all I gotta say.
Sean Oakman's NFL career basically got destroyed before it could even start because of a false rape accusation.
Yeah, and that's just what happens and everything like that. But with that being said, Brice, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Josh has just been on a roll with getting these guests. I mean, like, it's just, for all of you listening out there, let's just give a hand to Josh right now. I mean, he is just racking up these guests. And now we talk about UFC. So we actually please all the people that want to fight us. No, it's really cool to have that perspective, because like I said, I know not really anything about UFC. And then for many of those people out there that are listening, that's really awesome as well. Brice, if they want to talk to you more, where can they find you? Like, what's your social media? Like, where can they find you to maybe be like, hey, I want to talk to this guy about UFC or the Eagles football? I mean, either one, it doesn't matter. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so this is my first time really doing anything like this.
Yeah.
So pending success or whether I do more stuff like this, I want to create maybe a dedicated like Instagram or social media page for this kind of stuff. Like UFC coverage, I think would be my main thing. But right now I just have like a standard Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
There you go.
I can give you the links. I don't know if you post them on here.
Yeah, I'll post them. Yeah, I'll post them later.
Brice Tyler Photo is my current Instagram, but I mean, I have conversations with Josh with stuff like that on Instagram messaging and Snapchat all the time. But like I said, pending whether I think this is something I want to get involved in more, I'll definitely have more dedicated stuff.
Yeah,
maybe be on again in the future. To be honest, I was super nervous to do this. I feel like I've been fumbling over my words.
No,
I had to have all my stuff ready. But now that I feel like it's going, I'm a little more comfortable. So next time I feel like I could definitely have like better things to say. But
no, it was good.
Yeah, I'd love to come on and talk about UFC 280 in October when it comes around.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, once again, thank you, Brice, for that. And yeah, you did a great job. Trust me. When you have to deal with both Josh and I in the same sitting, especially me, who is just a comedy waiting to happen. But no, it's been a great time. For all of you out there listening, make sure you go and check out our other episodes with our other guests. They're really amazing. I mean, you can check the ones out with Josh and I, but I think the other ones are more entertaining. I don't know. But we do want to thank you to everyone out there listening. I mean, without you guys, like, we wouldn't be here where we're at. It's very, very entertaining. And we really do love it. Like, I know Josh and I talk about it all the time. Like, we're just blessed to have people that love watching it, love commenting, bringing up things we want to talk about, which is really awesome. If you want to find us again on Instagram at baseline.podcast, where you can see our stories, everything like that we're going to do. I still have to come out with get to know me that I still haven't not done in like the 4 months that we've had the page. So that will be happening at some point coming up, hopefully. But yes, as Josh and I are getting back into the work life, we're going to try to do as much content as we can to get it to you the best we can. And again, if you've loved watching this on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button right there and hit that subscribe button. There we go. And then make sure you hit that notification bell so you can see all of our episodes that are coming out in the future. I know Josh is working behind the scenes to get some more guests, so it's going to be really, really exciting to see what happens. And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're listening to it, make sure you give us a rating. That allows us to get our show out to more people, so people that like the UFC can listen to UFC. If you know anybody that loves the UFC, share this with them, because they'll get to laugh at me and they'll get to learn something too. So that's all bonus anyways. So anyways, thank you everyone for listening. Hope you guys have a great week. And until next week, we'll see ya.